This is the funk bass your mom will appreciate.
Isn't it terrific?
Jump around now, jump up and get down. 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 Isn't it? Jump up and get down. Jump around now. 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 Jump up and get down.
This is the funk bass your mom will appreciate.
Isn't it terrific?
Jump around now, jump up and get down. 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 Jump around.
All right, I think we're good to go. Yep, we got audio. We are good to go. What is going on, everybody? Hey, guess what? The Republicans in Congress, we're going to start off on some good news. Republicans in Congress have actually passed the Born Alive Act. Not that it really matters too much, considering, of course, the Democrats still maintain control of the Senate as well as the presidency. However, the good part about the Republicans actually doing something like this is that it has forced the Democrats to now take a side on the issue of whether or not you should provide health care to a baby that has been born during, of course, a botched abortion. I mean, it's absolutely insane to think that there's actually a side to take on this whole position. I mean, the reality is you have a child that is crying, that is breathing, that wants to live, and you're debating whether or not you should just let it die or take it to a hospital. And guess what? Around 210 Democrats voted against the bill. I have to laugh or else I think I might cry. 210 Democrats actually voted against a bill that simply said, hey, if you go for an abortion and it ends up becoming botched and the child gets born instead, hey, you have to take them to a hospital and make sure they get the medical care they need. All right, the Democrats aren't even trying to hide it anymore. Before they would say, they try to make all these weird assumptions about when personhood begins, whether it be viability or whether it be, of course, its location, whether or not it's in the womb versus out of the womb, which is just such a idiotic way of looking at it all. Because, of course, our biology doesn't change based on our location exactly, right? It changes based on how, obviously, biology changes based on how old and how far along they're developed, but their location means nothing. Like, there's no difference, really, between a child that was born, that's 9 months from conception, that was born at 8 because it's a preemie, and a child that's at 9 months yet still in its mother's womb. There's really no difference in biology between those two children. Yeah, of course, the one that's still in the mother's womb is okay to kill, according to the Democrats. But we're not even talking about that right now. We're talking about a child that has already been born. A child that is living, that is breathing, that is crying. That's what we're talking about. And 210 Democrats voted against the bill saying, hey, you gotta take that child to a hospital. This is how far they've gone. Here's the thing. Virginia's Ralph Northam said in an interview that this exact same thing. That if a child is born and the parents don't want it, they can have a discussion with their doctor as to how to proceed next. Implying, of course, that they would just let the child die. And the funny thing is that was only a few years ago or so. And for the most part, he was roundly ridiculed. I remember being in Virginia, because I was living in Virginia at that time, and actually I was doing, I believe I was still doing door knocking for a local politician around that time. And I remember going to Democrats and them saying, oh my God, I can't believe what Northam said. That's absolutely horrendous. That's absolutely terrible. Like, that's how far it went then. Yet now you have almost every single Democrat, except for one Democrat. One Democrat was the only one who voted in favor of this bill. Other than that, every other Democrat voted against giving children the medical care they need. The party, of course, for universal health care is wanting to deny health care to the most needy of us. That is where we're at. And here's the kicker. Here's the real kicker. Right here, it says, Democrats said the bill would interfere with families' medical decisions. Listen, I have 2 young children. I do not think it's a medical decision whether I say, hey, I want them to die or live. That's just not a medical decision. That's just me being a horrendously evil person. And that's at this point, I think what Democrats are just straight up being, right? I mean, there is no way you could defend this sort of stuff. There's no way you could defend to me in any relative way that if a child is born alive, we're not going to help them. And that is what they're saying. There's a debate. All right, everyone, there's a good debate on where personhood begins. All right, I know some people are going to say, no, it's this or it's that. No, I think there is a debate to be had about it. Now, I, for one, believe at conception because I think that's the only place it really makes sense is around the time when its unique DNA has started to form, and I think that is the point of which we have to say it's a human in my personal view. However, there's others who would say it's when the heartbeat starts. I disagree with it, but I do understand where that comes from, and I think there is a worthwhile debate to be had there. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about a child that is born. You could hold the child in your hands. And they're saying, no, it's okay to kill it. Oh my God, it is mind-numbingly bad. I don't know how these people can sleep at night. So through here, it says, nearly every House Democrat on Wednesday voted against the legislation that would require immediate medical attention for babies who are born alive after an attempt was made to abort them. Again, they're actually born. They're in the world. They're outside the womb. They can live on their own now. All you have to do is take them to a hospital and get them the care they need. That's all you need to do. They're alive. The House passed the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act, which says any infant born alive after an attempted abortion is a legal person for all purposes under the laws of the United States. Now, I frankly would argue, obviously, that at conception it's a legal person, but hey, you know what? This is progress, right? We're saying that if you're actually born, you're a person. What do you know? How crazy is that? Doctors will be required to care for those infants as a reasonably diligent and conscientious healthcare practitioner would render to any other child born alive. The bill passed 220 to 210. All 210 of the no votes came from Democrats. Only one Democrat voted for the bill. Rep. Henry Culler of Texas. Of course, it's got to be a Texan. Hey, you know what? My respect to you. All right, Henry, I mean, I probably would despise you on most other issues, but on here we can at least agree. Here we can at least say, what do you know? If a child is born, they can't be killed or they shouldn't be murdered. Like that you would think that would be common sense, but this is now what we're celebrating. We have to celebrate someone for saying, hey, you shouldn't murder a child. Just unreal that that's where we're at now. One other Democrat representative, Vincent Gonzalez of Texas, voted present. So it's funny that the 2 Texan Democrats are the ones who, of course, were not on board with just saying kill babies after they're born. But the funny thing is how they're justifying it, right? Like we all know the real reason is because they've now bought into this cult where it really is a death cult at this point. Again, we're talking about children who are already born and whether or not you can still kill them after they've been born. That's what we're talking about right now. So when they say, yes, you should still be allowed to let them die, we know we're dealing with basically a death cult at this point. And they've got themselves in this corner because they've constantly said over and over and over that no, it always is a decision for the mother. It's always a decision for the mother. It's always a decision for the mother. And they'd never wanted to have that real conversation about what is a person. I mean, hell, they can't even define what is a woman. So I guess defining what is a person is definitely a very deep philosophical question for them, for sure. They have no idea what makes a human being a human being. They have no concept of what makes us unique, what makes us individuals, and why our life is to be protected. And because of that, they're at a point now where how can they not vote against this bill? It's just amazing, though, because they're not just saying, well, we're going to vote against this bill because we want these children to die. That's not what they're saying. They're finding a way to try to twist their words around to make it seem like they actually still care about this child. Like they actually care about this child. So here we got, I saw this Greg Price post here on Twitter. This is Nadler saying why he voted against a bill protecting children who have been born. So here.
The problem with this bill is not that it makes anything, that it is not that it provides any new protections for infants. The problem with this bill is that it endangers some infants by stating that that infant must immediately be brought to the hospital, where, depending on the circumstances, that may be the right thing to do for the health and survival of that infant, or it may not. That is the problem with this bill. It directs and mandates a certain medical care which may not be appropriate, which may be endanger the life of an infant in certain circumstances. That's why we oppose this bill. Not the
So you gotta love that. They're saying the idea of taking a child to the hospital could endanger the child because what if the child doesn't need to go to the hospital? What care would they be able to provide at an abortion clinic to the child that they could not provide at a hospital? In which case would this ever be an actual issue? And here's the thing. If it's an actual issue, you're really telling me if they actually do what they can to save that child, which the bill mostly says, the bill actually says that they just need to take the proper procedures to save the child's life. As long as they're taking those procedures, they should be in the clear. But no. They're trying to make it sound like they're actually they're protecting the infant in this weird case where an abortion clinic has the ability to save an infant's life, but the hospital can't because maybe it's too far away or something. It's amazing. They're trying to twist their words in such a way that they try just so hard to make it seem like they're the good guys. They're trying so hard. And another one here that was, to me, absolutely hysterical. Representative Hillary Scholten or whatever. You gotta check this out.
Of parental and maternal rights and in opposition to H.R. 26. I'm the first mother in history to represent West Michigan in Congress. This matter is deeply personal to me. I recently shared publicly about my own experience navigating a complex miscarriage and the loss of my daughter. As a pro-choice Christian who chose life, this issue is so personal to me. My faith informs my actions, but it doesn't dictate the policy of an entire nation. And further, when I read the scripture, I turn to passages and I'm guided by passages like Jeremiah 1 verses 5, which states, I knew you before I formed you and I placed you in your mother's womb. It doesn't say the government's womb or the speaker's womb. It says the mother's womb. I believe life is precious, but I reject the idea that if I embrace the sanctity of life, I also must be forced to invite the federal government in to regulate it. We must protect families from unnecessary government intrusion into the most sacred and personal decisions of our lives.
Okay, real quick, for one, you do not care about the sanctity of life if you're for abortion. I'm sorry, you cannot play that card. You just can't. You do not get to say you believe in the sanctity of life if you're for the killing of a child. That just cannot be done. Second off, a pro-life or a pro-choice Christian, then you're not really much of a Christian. I'm sorry, you cannot be pro-choice and a Christian. You can't be pro-choice and I believe Jew or Muslim either. I know pretty heavily with the Jewish people who I know, at least, they say that, obviously, I've never fully read their stuff, but they claim to me that you can't really be pro-choice and Jewish, and I believe the same goes for being Muslim. Points, being religious, you believe, of course, that every person has, or at least Abrahamic religions, believe that every person does have a soul. And because of that, they don't tend to look very kindly on people who kill other human beings, especially the most defenseless among us, aka children. Now, the funny thing about this is, I don't like talking about religion when it comes to the idea of abortion. I really don't. I'll pull this aside real quick. So, I was an atheist when I became pro-life. All right, I was raised in a Christian home, but I got away from it, and then just a bunch of things. I became an atheist for a good long while, and I became pro-life after I became an atheist. Up till then, my rule was very simple. I said, I'm not going to touch this issue with a 6-foot pole. Like, I was always like, I'm staying far away from this issue as much as possible. I am not discussing this issue. And I was pretty much, whatever. If people want to get abortion, they get abortion. I didn't care. I even bought into the whole freakonomics argument about the fact of, abortions are actually good for the economy and everything. And just a bunch of total nonsense back when before I was an atheist. I then became an atheist, and eventually someone asked me I was kind of discussing this issue with. They said, have you ever watched an abortion take place? Have you actually watched videos about what an abortion is? And I watched a video of an abortion, and I'm telling you, it struck me. Like, I felt sick to my stomach. I paused it. I walked away from it. I didn't want to finish it. And it wasn't until I realized the fact of, okay, if I can't even finish this video, clearly there's something on the inside telling me why this is wrong. And I went back and I watched the entire video, and after seeing what I saw, I feel wrong even describing it, to be honest, because it was so horrendous on my mind, basically. I was literally in tears afterwards. Later on, I became religious, but I don't believe you need to be religious to argue on the pro-life side, because I was pro-life back when I was an atheist. Because it's pretty simple. It's a unique human life, and it shouldn't be killed. It's as simple as that. And people argue, of course, the like 1% cases where it's like the life of the mother, or a case of rape or incest or anything like that. Well, you know what? I'll make those exceptions. I'm willing to say, you know what? Let's allow all those cases to be, abortions to be allowed. Not because I believe it's the right thing to do, but because at least then we can say 99% of the cases will be done with, right? 99% of cases, the child will live. So I'm okay with even making those exceptions, because in those 99% of cases, you chose to do something that you knew could create a child from. You chose to make that decision. Yet you don't want to have any consequence from it. You want to be consequence-free your entire life. Listen, raising a kid is hard, don't get me wrong. I have 2 kids. I have 2 kids under the age of 2. I perfectly understand. It is very difficult at times. I mean, why don't you think I have any hair at this point? All right, I know that raising a kid can be difficult. But you chose this. You chose to take part in an action that created a child. It's why, even though I think almost all of us have made the mistake of sleeping people who we should not have slept with, the reality is this is why it's so important to choose the right partner. It's why it's so important to choose someone who you actually love and can be committed to. And though obviously as a Christian, I now see the error of my ways and actually do believe it is better if you wait till marriage and all of that, but let's be real, most people aren't. At the very least, what I'm trying to ask is that you wait till you have someone that you trust. At least so you can trust. I think of some of the people who I slept with and realized, oh dear Lord, if I had a child with them, my whole life would, in a way, about would have been ruined, right? I mean, these women were absolutely awful, to say the least. So I know we all make mistakes, but the reality is, if you make the mistake, then it's your burden to bear. You have to deal with this, and you shouldn't be able to kill someone to get out of that burden. All right, it is just as wrong to kill them when they're still in the womb as it is to say, oh, this 1-year-old is just really driving me crazy. It would be so much better if I just didn't have them and then killed them then. It's no different. It is absolutely no different. Yet, the Democrats here, they actually are now trying to say a child that is born alive, a child, again, that is breathing, that is screaming, that is crying, that is reaching out, trying to get, try to get nutrients from the mother, is trying to get attention and love from the mother. That child can be killed, can be done away with. Sorry, they will say they won't actually kill it. What they'll do is they'll sit it aside and just let it die. They won't provide the care needed. They'll let it die, which almost might be even worse. I mean, just my God, they basically put it in a waste bin and just let it cry until it stops. And I mean, you can actually, again, it about brings me to tears talking about this, but there's interviews with people who've worked in abortion clinics who have talked about this. Children that were born who were basically put in a garbage can crying until eventually the crying stopped. Just horrendous things that have happened. And again, this isn't a conversation of pro-life, pro-choice. This is a conversation about a child that has been born. Can you kill it? And the Democrats are saying, yes, we can. That is where we are as a society. That is how bad the Democrat Party is at this point. It is absolutely, truly unreal. But I want to get us to a lighter note because, God, it's so depressing seeing what Democrats are doing when it comes to the just anything involving abortion. To be honest, it's. I talk about something that can blackpill you. I mean, seeing how far they've gotten with some of the laws they've got passed just is horrendous. But let's lighten things up a bit. Let's talk about something a bit more fun, okay? Because you might have already seen this, but this is a very, very, very interesting and actually, I'll be honest, I think a pretty well put together article here. Transmaxing, the incel to trans woman pipeline. Incels. Everyone loves talking about them. No one seems to ever like them. And they actually mentioned this, right? They mentioned the fact of that they are hated from both sides of the aisle. That the leftists hate them because they call them misogynist, and all of us on the right hate them because they're not masculine enough and they're not taking responsibility for themselves. And it's true. It's very true. And so these are people who are left without a home, without any really good group of people to be around other than other incels. And for those of you who don't know, just in case, incel is a term to reference people who are involuntarily celibate, meaning they can't get laid. They want to, they can't. They're celibate not by choice. And it's sad. It's really sad because society does not help these people. They just really don't. And I really do feel bad for a lot of these guys because, I mean, in a different world, I easily could have been one. Like, 100%. I mean, I'm not much to look at now, but when I was younger, I was way worse than what I am now. Like, it was evil. I looked awful. I didn't have my first girlfriend until I was in 12th grade. I didn't have my first kiss until I didn't have my first kiss until I was a senior in high school, okay? The relationship didn't last long because I didn't know how to treat her, so of course it just broke all apart. And it still took a while for me to eventually get to a point where I could kind of consistently get a girlfriend. And if I didn't have a good family structure, if I didn't have a good father or a good mother, a good family who loved you very much, who cared for me as well, if I didn't have my dad, constantly trying to give me advice and try to help me, I easily could have became one of these kind of guys who at age 30 are just doing absolutely nothing with their life except putting on a VR headset and watching too much porn. Like, I easily could have been that. And to a certain extent, I was going that direction. Like, I was a total porn addict for a good long while. I'm talking like 3 times a day type stuff. Just awful, awful stuff. And I had to snap out of it. And the only reason I was able to snap out of it is because I had people around me who weren't that, who helped me through it. So when I see what's happening to a lot of these incels here, I have to admit, I do feel sort of conflicted because part of me just wants to slap them upside the face and say, just man the up. But there is something going on here, and it has to do with a lot of what we're doing in society. I mean, really think about it. All forms of media basically tell men to be an incel, whether you want to believe it or not. Most forms of media really do. They tell men if you're overly confident, that's a negative thing. Oh, if you're very well accomplished, well, you're probably the bad guy. In many ways, for a lot of sitcoms, take How I Met Your Mother as a great example. All right, they make Ted, who at first in the first few seasons is kind of just a normal kind of shy, not even that shy of a guy actually. He's a pretty normal guy. But by the end of the show, they've now transformed him into this very weak and benign guy who can't play basketball, who can't, totally uncoordinated, has no real confidence to him. They turn him into basically what an incel is, yet for the show, of course, he gets the woman, he still is getting laid consistently and all this kinds of stuff, right? Even Barney, to a certain extent, is not a very masculine guy, right? Yeah, he's sleeping around nonstop. When guys are looking, especially young men are looking at especially TV shows and looking at the guys who are put up on pedestals as, hey, here are the guys that, you should be like, a lot of the times, it's not the kind of guy you should be. It does kind of fit the mold of an incel, except they do get laid. So then they go into a world and expect that if they act that same way, they'll also get a girlfriend. They'll also, they'll also be able to get married and have kids acting in that same fashion when it's just simply not true. That's not what people want in reality. That's not what women want in reality. What women want is the 2 C's. All right, they want confidence and competence. All right, they want a man who's confident in themselves and their abilities. They want a man who, of course, has the abilities. They want people who are competent, people who can actually take care of themselves, take care of them, take care of the family. That's what they really want. Yet, media tells guys constantly, especially young men, women want a guy who's soft and caring and emotional and da-da-da-da-da-da. When the reality is, no, we should be masculine. We should have traditional masculine roles. That is what we need to do. That is what we are meant to be. You'll be happier if you go to the gym. You'll be happier if you start working hard. You'll be happier if you commit yourself to improving each and every day. You will not be happy being like the men you see on sitcoms. It's just not how it's going to be. But I'm going a bit too far into this. Let's hop into this article real quick here. Why a community of depressed young men with nothing to lose is convinced the only way out of their misery is gender transition. That a large and growing subset of men are literally incapable of getting laid is a seemingly benign issue that actually impacts our entire society, intersecting every controversial topic from technology addiction and toxic masculinity to the population crash. 100% accurate. 100%. This really does. They act like it's no big deal. Like a lot of people act like these guys not being able to get laid is just no big deal. Who cares? Listen, this is a big deal. It truly is. A guy who's not able to find a committed relationship with a woman who's basically constantly being rejected again and again and again. Listen, you women out there, you don't understand this, but the guys who are successful get rejected more than they get accepted. So what happens when a guy's told about 100 times over, no, 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 no? The reality is he can do one of two things. He can either realize there's something wrong with him, which I think most of us who have actually got married and have families and all at one point did realize that, hey, we were lacking in some areas and we needed to improve because, let's face it, as Jordan Peterson said, either you're wrong or everyone else is wrong. More than likely, it's you. So you can either take the route of self-improvement or you can fall into an absolute pit of despair where it's almost impossible to climb out of, where it leads to, of course, just drug addictions, pornography addictions, to even suicide. It is a dark, dark, dark hole that these people fall down in. And this does intersect every controversial target they're pointing here, right? And technology addictions, major among incels. And we look at, of course, again, like I'm talking about when it comes to pornography addiction, very, very heavy among them because it's that instant gratification they get from it, right? It's that dopamine release they actually get from it. What they should be getting from actual human connection, they're now getting from a machine. They're getting from becoming, be honest, a voyeurist. They're watching other people instead of participating themselves. That is what they're getting off to. That's going to with your mind. It does your mind. All right, there's a reason why actually our generation, millennials especially, and I think Gen Z is experiencing this too, we have one of the highest rates of erectile dysfunction ever in the history of the world. One of the highest rates ever in the world. 30-year-olds have an ED rate higher than that of 70-year-olds. You want to know why? Because of porn addiction. I know from experience. It sucks, but it's true, right? When I did watch it way too much, guess what? I couldn't perform. I wasn't able to do it. Yet, when I got off of that stuff, when I stopped watching that, everything got better. Everything got better. After like 2 weeks of not watching porn, guess what? You can perform a lot better. These men, though, are at a point now where even if they did get a woman, they won't even know what to do. They won't know how to treat her. They won't know what to do when things got to that level. They are now to a point where they need that technology just to even go about their day, to go about their lives. When it comes to toxic masculinity, a little bit of a mixed feeling on that. I think the whole toxic masculinity thing is obviously a bunch of BS for the most part. The things they're talking about is toxic masculinity. They don't understand like the difference between confidence and arrogance. They'll go, oh, this person's overly confident. That's toxic. No, being arrogant is toxic. Being confident is what you want to be. There's a big difference. Arrogant is I can't possibly ever lose, and confident is it doesn't matter if I win or lose, I will succeed in the end. It's a bit more, I won't say it's a bit more in a way philosophical, right? Confidence has a lot more to it than just I will not win or I will not lose. That's not what confidence is. Confidence is no matter what, it's going to be all right because I will succeed. It's totally different than, of course, unfiltered arrogance. So toxic masculinity thing, yeah. Population crash, of course. No one's having kids anymore. Why should men go off and have kids when they can just sit there and jerk off in the room all by themselves? I mean, it's sad but true. So right here, but more recently, as the involuntary celibate incel subculture works its way through the funhouse mural world of the 20th or 21st century, excuse me, I have hiccups. 21st century internet, it has strangely and perhaps inevitably intersected with the trans community. Long story short, what if you hated women so much you decided to become one? Today in a whirlwind of incel men becoming girls and dating each other, androgen treatments as a defense against man's own sex drive and the power of women, and the use of sissy hypno porn. Okay, let's say again. Use of sissy hypno porn to force men into womanhood. Okay, real quick. This is the second time I've read through this article. I had to look it up the first time. So apparently the whole sissy stuff is like guys dressed as women but aren't exactly trans having sex with men. It's kind of weird, but I want to say it's like it seems like it's like the stepping stone to becoming trans. It's like the stepping stone of like, okay, first, they put on some dresses and they're still a guy, but they like being the woman during sex, but also not like in a gay way. It's really weird. It's weird. Problem with pornography, right? You have so many degenerate stuff, you have to keep one-upping it again and again and again. And what do you know? Now we have sissy hypno porn. It's just such a stupid thing to even have to say. So what they're doing is basically trying to convince themselves that they will enjoy it. And the sad part is, I guarantee it works. I guarantee for these guys it actually works. Because here's the deal. The mind is very malleable. You can get it to like certain things. You really can. There's ways you can do it. It can happen. Right? I mean, there are plenty of people who they started with like regular pornography and then went to this, went down the rabbit hole of just horrendous things, and now they got some really weird fetishes they didn't have before because they've actually put that in their mind. It's one of the problems of something like pornography. And now, of course, these guys who can't stand women are now watching sissy hypno porn as a way to just kind of twist their mind to accept what they want to move forward with. It is it's a weird world we're living in. Imagine you're a depressed young man in a developed country. Maybe you work long hours for low pay. Maybe you're unemployed. When you were in school, you didn't fit in with other boys. Girls acted like you weren't even there. You spend most of your free time playing video games, shitposting online with friends you never met in real life. You rarely have sex without paying for. I love how they assume these guys are buying hookers. I don't even think incels really are even going out doing that, to be honest. I'm pretty sure they're stuck inside too long. You consider suicide regularly. It is a sad but real thing that these guys definitely deal with. To the left, you're a threat, a woman-hating incel with latent violent tendencies. To the right, you're a degenerate, a porn-addicted, weak virgin who struggles to impose himself on the world. Like I was saying before, these people have no home other than themselves. So this idea that some of them are transitioning and they're just hooking up all with one another, it unfortunately kind of makes sense. Really sad it does, but you can kind of see where it's coming from for these guys, or at least how it's developing at the very least. And here's the thing that, they point, stuff like they're playing video games too much. Listen, I love video games. I have a video game channel that I love doing, like video game reviews and live streams and stuff like that. I absolutely do love video games, but listen, there is a problem when you do start playing it way, way, way too much. Don't level up, the character in a video game, level up yourself, as I don't know who said that, but I know it wasn't me. There's people who do play it way, way, way too much who are to a point addicted to it. And when they're talking about here, with, they don't fit in with guys, like the traditional guys, and girls out like they don't even exist. Listen, this is a real problem these guys are facing. And it's sad. I mean, again, you women out there don't understand this, what it's like to be rejected all the damn time. To say that, and mind you, whenever these guys are getting rejected, what they're after like the 20th time they're rejected, what they're probably going to be thinking is, no one will ever love me. Can you even imagine what that would be like in your life if you felt no one would ever love you? And again, to a point, I feel for these guys because there was a point in my life where I feel like I could have gone down that path had I not had the right people in my life. Around like 11th grade or so, I was feeling basically that similar thing of I'm probably never going to get married. No one's going to ever care for me. No one's ever going to like love me or anything like that. It was only because I had good parents who were able to, I had someone to look up to, someone who I was able to try to emulate to the best of my ability. My dad constantly was telling me nonstop, hey, you need to improve yourself. You need to grow. You need to develop. You need to get out there and do different things, all this stuff. And it wasn't until I was like out of high school that it finally clicked for me personally. I don't know why it took so long, but eventually it did. And what do you know? Now I'm married, happily so, to a beautiful woman and have 2 great and amazing kids. A lot of these guys don't have that in their lives. A lot of these guys come from single parents. Okay, we'll just go here. A lot of these incels come from single mothers who have no idea what they're going through. They have no one to relate to them. They have absolutely no one who can help them through this. A lot of them come from single moms or broken families. And again, a single mom doing what she can. To a point, I respect it. Sure, obviously, I can't imagine how difficult that would be, yada, yada, yada. But a mother has no idea what a boy goes through. They just don't. Just like how, listen, as a dad, I have when my daughter starts, growing up and developing all that stuff, I have no idea what any of that's like. All that, the wife's going to be taking care of that. And when my son has certain issues, guess what? There's going to be a lot of issues that she isn't going to be able to help him through, that I will have to help him through. So what happens now when we have a bunch of young men who have no father figure in their life, who have no one to really turn to emulate, to properly learn from in general. They're learning again from bad television and porn. That's what they're learning from. It's no surprise that they're having all these struggles. So it continues, where do you go from here? Do you integrate yourself with SJWs or with the Chads? Oh, Chad thinks so dumb. Do you succumb to the temptation to commit suicide? Many do. Many do. All right, the suicide rate in this country is that's a whole nother conversation, but it is horrendous. It truly is horrendous. And a lot of these guys, it is extremely high suicide rate for a lot of these guys. Now, admittedly, if they transition, that doesn't really help too much. I mean, what's the suicide rate for trans people? Like, it's like 50% almost. So I don't think it helps probably too much on that front, but it is a real issue they're facing. And it's bigger than I think most people want to give credit to. For some men, the solution to the despair of living as an isolated, unhappy male is straightforward: become a woman. They call themselves trans-maxers, which is, I guess is a decent name if you're going to use it for, publicity's sake. And that's trans-maxers. I'll give it to them. That's a good name. And they believe gender transition can be an effective tool of escaping the misery of involuntary celibacy, social isolation, and professional mediocrity. More broadly, they see transition as a potentially revolutionary response to a world where the combination of industrialization and biomedical technologies such as vitro fertilization, sperm donation has eroded the financial and reproductive opportunities previously available to most men. Man, that's a mouthful. I want to point something out here. They're not wrong. It is an escape, because as a society, we constantly right now are praising every trans person we see. So they go from not being noticed to being despised, from being rejected again and again and again and again, and they transition, and suddenly they have all these people showering love on them, saying how beautiful they look as a woman, how, oh, you're going to enjoy it so much, oh, come into our community, oh, come out to our parades, come. And that is the appeal. Not only that, but when it comes to professional life, let's face it, you can't really fire someone who's trans these days without being accused of some kind of bigotry, so most people don't fire them. You get special privileges when it comes to many aspects of society. If you're online and people ridicule you, guess what? You can get them banned. I wish when people ridiculed me, I get them banned. Man, I have so many people. Every time I do like a video game live stream, I always have people hop in chat saying baldy, 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 baldy. Not realizing, of course, I chose kind of to go bald. But either way, you know, people insult me all the time. Don't really care. But guess what? If you're trans and they insult you, well, guess what? You can get them banned. So these incels are finding a way to gain acceptance in a community. They're finding a way to get acceptance by society and getting protections they otherwise had been denied. So why wouldn't they go for it? I mean, it's terrible. It's awful, obviously. Like, I mean, I'm not for it. I'd rather see them go to a gym a little bit, work out, go on a couple runs, actually maybe get just really focus on work a little bit, read a couple books, just read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, okay? I mean, one second. Read this. I need to expand it, don't I? Read this book, and it will fix you, okay? If you're an incel, read this book, and I promise you, you will no longer be an incel, all right? Meditations, Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest books. If you got like the Bible, and then like you got Marcus Aurelius in my eyes, okay? It goes pretty much in that order. This right here, I would say, is the second most important book on the face of the planet. Read this if you're a man. Read this, and it will fix almost any issue you're facing, all right? It will really get your eyes back on track and get you focused where you ought to be. That's what I'd rather see incels be doing. But instead, they're finding acceptance with a group whose love is very conditional. This is an unconditional love these people are giving them. It's very conditional. It's on a condition they take hormones they shouldn't be taking, change their entire body, change everything about them, and then they will be accepted. It's kind of like the reverse of what we're always told. We're told, don't change things about you to fit in with greater society as a whole. Yet when it comes to this particular issue, they're changing everything, and not in a healthy way. Because even I'll say, guess what? You should change for society as a whole. All right, I'm sorry. Like, if you're a lazy, good for nothing, just punk, like, yeah, you should change and become a better man. However, in this instance, where the changes that you need to take should be helpful and healthy. In this case, they're destructive, extremely so. Now, I'm not sure how popular this really is. I don't know how many people are actually transitioning from incel to trans woman. I don't know. For all I know, this person found like 2 people and is writing a whole article saying it's a new crazy fad like the media likes to do. But you can find this whole article and it's a decent read, but it actually is somewhat well made. I don't really agree with everything in it, but they do list out a lot of stuff that's going on with them in a very non-hateful way. Because I have to be honest, again, I don't like the hate on the incel community. I don't like it. Again, I am a married man with multiple kids. I am not even remotely an incel. But at one point, again, all it will have taken is one change in my life, and I probably would have been. All right, I can't express how close I was. I mean, I was depressed. I didn't know what to do with my life. I got scars all up and down my arm. It's kind of hard to see on camera, I guess, but maybe you can see, my arms, wrists, all. I was the emo kid in school. All right, listen, I do feel for these guys. I was the guy who had hair down to my shoulders, never washed it, greasy as hell, wearing all black, in the corner, just bad stuff. And it's because I really thought for a while there I would never be accepted by other people. I would never, be loved by a woman or anything like that. I was in that position. If it wasn't for me having such a great family, I would have gone down, I feel like, a similar path. So I don't like the hate towards them because this is a case where, for the most part, society has failed them. Their parents especially failed them. Again, in many cases, these guys don't have a father or a father who just doesn't care. It's very rare you see one of these guys who are incels with a dad who actually loves and cares about them. It's very rare you see any of these guys with any real father figures in their lives. Part of why I believe it's so important for me to try to be there as much as possible for my kids. Kids need both in their lives. They need a father, they need a mother. You can't just go without one of the two. You have to have both. And that's what these kids are lacking. They were failed by their fathers, they were failed by society, they were failed by almost all of us, because we're constantly holding up media that tells them that, the traits that they should develop in order to become good, confident men are bad. We're telling them like those traits are terrible, which then sends them again down this whole rabbit hole. Okay, what am I supposed to do then? What am I supposed to do then? It's awful. Hopefully, we'll get to a point where maybe we can actually look at people like that and just, hopefully we can get to a point where we just have less single mothers going around, right? Hopefully we can get to a point where people are actually taking care of their kids like they should. But till then, this will be a problem that will continue on and on and on. So, it's funny. I went to this article saying that we were going to lighten things up a little bit, and instead, maybe it's not as depressing as Democrats voting to kill children, but it's still kind of depressing. Well, we just go ahead and hit the trifecta here, all right? If for those of you who live outside of cities, this one's going to hit you. And you probably have already heard this one, but I do still want to bring it up here. U.S. federal agency considering a ban on gas stoves. A ban on gas stoves. So for all of you who are in areas where you get snowed in and power gets cut off, I'm sorry, you can't eat. So here's the funny thing. So I was in Alaska for a whole winter in Alaska. My wife gets on me because I talk about it way too much, but it was one of the greatest trips of my entire life. I've been almost to every state in the country, and Alaska is still my all-time favorites. But I spent a winter in Alaska. It was amazing. And guess what? There's a lot of people who live outside some of the cities like Anchorage who, guess what? They have to have gas stoves because once it snows, a lot of them will lose power pretty routinely. And it's okay when it comes to your refrigerator, right? Because you can just store your food outside, and many of them actually do. Like, I met someone who actually had a fridge in their garage, wasn't connected, but what it was is that the garage stayed so cold itself during the winter, if their power went out, they could just move their food into this fridge in their garage that wasn't even connected to anything, and it was so cold outside, it would still keep all of their food nice and fresh. So, they don't, they lose their power consistently. Many places across the country lose their power consistently, right? I mean, this past Christmas, my family lost power on Christmas Eve. On Christmas Eve, we lost power, and we barely had enough gas to power the gas fireplace to keep the house even just a little bit warm. We were in our jackets, shivering in our house on Christmas Eve because the power ended up going out over there. But for those who have gas stoves, you can keep cooking. You can keep, if the power goes out, if you get snowed in, guess what? You're fine. You're totally fine. Because all you have to do is store your food outside, bring it in, cook it on your gas stove, because many houses that have gas stoves have giant tanks outside full of gas, and as long as you keep that thing updated, it will last you a good long while. But what they want to do now is they're considering a ban on gas stoves. Now, I do want to put this out there. They did start walking this back. They said, oh, we're not sure about this. They did that thing where they'll announce something. People will get mad at it and then they'll say, oh, no, you're crazy. We were never actually talking about that. But the reality is, yes, they were. They just saw the negative reaction. And again, that's why I pulled this up on CNN, because even they straight up said they're considering banning gas stoves here, right? And this is this was yesterday on January 11th. So here we go. A federal agency is considering a ban on gas stoves, a source of indoor pollution linked to childhood asthma. Now, for one, I would like to see that study, because I've also seen plenty of studies that say that actually just having too much dust in the house causes asthma. Having dog hair in the house causes asthma. Just having a dirty house in general causes asthma. Now, from what I've seen on the study they're referencing, the main thing they were looking at was basically one bedroom apartments. Really small spaces is what they were mostly talking about in the study, saying that there is some pollution link with having a gas stove. Even then, again, I'll go through it a bit more, but everything I saw pretty much said, it's kind of more speculated. Like they're not 100% sure whether or not it is, or whether it could be other factors, again, including just not having a fully cleaned house, not having a proper air filter in the house. Maybe you didn't change the filters up there, because guess what? If you don't change the filters in your AC units and everything, it can also lead to childhood asthma, they've shown. So whether or not it's a gas stove entirely, or whether, correlation versus causation, right? That 101 thing we always learn at college. They don't know for sure. But just having that speculation out there, they decided, hey, we're going to move to try to ban any new gas stoves from being created. So Richard Trumka Jr. is a U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commissioner, set off a firestorm this week by saying in an interview with Bloomberg that gas stoves pose a hidden hazard and suggests the agency could ban them. Trumka confirmed to CNN everything is on the table when it comes to gas stoves, but stressed any ban would only apply to new gas stoves, not existing ones. So here's the thing they're really talking about for the most part. They're mostly talking about apartment complexes. That any new ones that get built needs to have electric over gas. Again, I find this to be absolutely stupid. And for one, let's just put this out here. Gas cooks better than electric. There is no comparison. I don't care what some idiot online says. Gas cooks better than electric. Oh, but with electric, I can get to even cook across my entire... No, shut up. You don't know how to cook. That's your problem. All right? If you know how to cook, gas is better than electric. Now, of course, coal is better than gas. All right? If you're going to actually properly, do like a nice pulled pork or something like that, or some ribs, you want some actual coal, you want some smoke. I was the KCBS South Carolina state champion for ribs back in, I think it was 2010 is when we competed there. So I know a thing or two about my damn ribs. I know a thing or two about cooking. It goes coal, gas, then electric. And the reality is electric just is an inferior way to cook your food. But more importantly, like I said before, gas allows you to stay off the grid. And I think that's their real issue. They want to get people off the grid, or because we have a looming crisis when it comes to natural gas. Remember, a big provider of natural gas is Russia. All right, Russia's a big provider when it comes to natural gas. They're a big provider when it comes to almost all forms of energy, unfortunately. And right now we're in a very stupid war against them, and we are at war with them. All right, you can't give someone a gun, say, hey, here's a gun for you to shoot this person, and then say you're not against that person, right? I mean, we're in a war with, it's a proxy war, but we're in a war with Russia. It's just the reality of it. So what does that mean? Well, we know, for one, fertilizer's down. We know natural gas is down. We know oil is down. We know, of course, with Ukraine being basically the breadbasket of Europe, that's a big problem right now, obviously. So we know there's kind of a looming crisis that's going to eventually hit again. So we have the buildup from everything that happened from COVID with all the lockdowns and everything like that. That's already hurting us. And then guess what? We're now going to have a huge, domino effect starting to happen when it comes to what's going on over in Ukraine and Russia. It's a total disaster. So I wonder if they're trying to get people off gas because they know that we're going to have less of it in the coming years. Hopefully not. Hopefully we get someone better in office and we can just kind of settle this whole mess. I don't know. But isn't it kind of funny that every single time a Democrat has been elected to office, Russia has encroached on Ukraine? And every single time a Republican's been in office, they haven't really done jack. Like it was under Obama when he launched missiles into Georgia and took they took one of the cities over in Ukraine. I forget which one it was. Sorry, it escapes me at the moment. And then, of course, under Trump, they backed off, did nothing. And then Biden comes into office, full-out war on Ukraine. It's kind of funny how that works. Yet, of course, it's the Republicans who are spouting off Russian propaganda. Either way, we're talking about gas stoves. So I wonder, is it an issue where they don't want people off the grid? Or is it an issue where they know that natural gas is going to be lower, so they're going to try to switch more people onto electric? Or is it kind of the case like you saw over in, I think it was Colorado, it might have been Denver, I believe, where people's AC units said they couldn't turn the heat on up to a certain degree because there was a rule in effect to try to save power. I wonder if something similar like that can also be done to your cooking appliances if they're all on the electrical grid. The reality is that, unfortunately, I have an electric stove downstairs. I would rather have gas, but tough shit, right? I'm stuck with it for now. But for those who are having gas stoves, no matter what happens in the world, no matter what's going on around, they can remain independent. They can remain doing whatever they want, and they'll be just fine. And let's face it, the government doesn't like that, or doesn't like people who do that. All right, there's laws against just collecting freaking rainwater to just have water for your house. Hey, the amount of laws the government has on what you can do to actually live off the grid, I mean, the reality is you really can't. You really can't truly live off the grid, at least not very easily in this country, because they want to keep you on the grid 24/7. And to me, this is just one step going towards that as well. Gas stoves. I can't believe we're here now. Oh God, that's so stupid. And again, I want someone to challenge me on that. Gas stoves cook better than electric. There is no competition. Period. If you disagree, I'm sorry. Normally I say I respect your opinion. In this case, I don't respect your opinion. You're just dumb. Gas works better than electric every single time, especially if you like Asian food. Now I got one more thing I wanted to pull up here. This was kind of last minute, so. Actually, before I do that, check this out. Yeah, I love libs of TikTok, right? I think we all do. They're fantastic. Gas stoves for me, but not for the Kamala Harris cooks on a gas stove, Jill Biden with a gas stove, AOC gas stove, Elizabeth Warren gas stove. Just like always, they get to have everything that they want you not to have. I mean, just how it works, right? Okay, on to what I was going to point to next. On Tuesday, I talked about the fact that Biden actually lost classified documents. He left them out of his think tank. I think it was over in Pennsylvania. I'm not entirely sure. It was at one of his think tanks, though. Now, we found out, and I said on Tuesday, I said, they're claiming that's only 10 documents, so it's not nearly as big of a deal as Trump. And I said, well, he hasn't been raided like Trump was raided, so we don't know how many documents he has. All right, you're saying it's only 10, but until the FBI raids him like they raided Trump, we have no idea where the documents are. Right? If they were at one of his random think tanks, where else could they be? Well, already, they found a new batch of classified documents in Biden's garage. In fact, one of the videos of him showing off his Camaro in his garage, you can see a pile of documents just stacked, unlocked, just right there. But listen to this exchange. I mean, this is absolutely... I talk about how not to handle the press. I mean, Biden's awful when it comes to handling the press and why he never takes questions himself. But wow, I mean, just this is... Oh man, this is great.
Mr. President,
Okay.
classified material next to your Corvette. What were you thinking?
Let me, I'm going to get a chance to speak on all this, God willing, soon. But as I said earlier this week, people, and by the way, my Corvette's in a locked garage, okay? So it's not like you're sitting out in the street.
So
but anyway,
was in a locked garage.
Yes, as well as my Corvette. But as I said earlier this week, people know I take classified documents and classified material seriously. I also said we're cooperating fully and completely with the Justice Department's review. As part of that process, my lawyers reviewed other places where documents in from my time as vice president were stored, and they finished the review last night. They discovered a small number of documents of classified markings in storage areas and file cabinets in my home and my personal library. This was done in the case of the Biden Penn. This was done in the case of the Biden Penn Center. The Department of Justice was immediately, as was done, the Department of Justice was immediately notified.
Okay, he can't talk, right? Okay, so he starts going through things saying, oh, everyone's notified, so it's not a big deal. Dude, lay this out. Trump was the president when he moved those documents to Mar-a-Lago. Therefore, he had the ability to declassify whatever the hell he wanted to declassify. So when he says all the documents there were declassified by me when I moved them out, he has an argument there. Biden, this is from when Biden was the VP for Obama. He does not have the ability to declassify classified documents, and yet he left classified documents at a random think tank. He left them in the garage of his house. Not even in lock and key, like he said, oh, the garage door was locked, like my Corvette. Listen, my garage door is locked too, but I'm not going to put my nice computer in the garage, right? I'm not going to trust it being safe in there. It's not the same. It's just not the same. It just, the way he handles, just, oh yeah, it was locked in my garage. Like my Corvette was. Yeah, it just. How many more are we gonna find? Are we gonna find more of this? He said he also found something in his study. How does he not know there? Or how does he not know they're there? How did he not know all that was already there? And again, he didn't have the power to declassify documents like Trump had. And I said on Tuesday that I think that almost every politician has classified documents somewhere in their house because, listen, as much as we want to act like everyone should should do right when it comes to all the red tape and bureaucracy that they have to, go under, the reality is that's just simply not the case. Everyone finds ways to cross that line all the damn time. It's just a reality. Every politician has classified documents at their house because some people want to take, or not want to, guess what? You have to take your work home with you. I get it, but we're playing on unequal playing fields right now. Trump has a few classified documents that he claims he declassified when he was president. So guess what? He declassified them. And he gets raided by the damn FBI. He forgets that he has documents that he has no power to declassify. He forgets that he has documents over in one of his think tanks. Oh, nothing really that big of a deal. It's only a few documents. Finds more documents in his garage. Finds more documents in his study. And where's the FBI? Where is the FBI raiding Joe Biden? Where's the people calling for his resignation? Where's the people saying he's selling American secrets overseas? Which, let's face it, I think he probably kind of is over to China, as well as, some of his business dealings that he even admitted to when it comes to Ukraine. But nothing. No, just silence. Silence. Absolute insanity. I do love this meme that's right down here. Just, salesman meme. You can fit so many classified documents in here. That's fantastic. That's just fantastic. It's just amazing. Talk about a double standard. I just want to ask you right now, just how many more documents do you think we're going to find? How many more just caches of documents are we going to find with Biden? And how long until they just start reporting on it as well, to the point we have to really, really dig for it, right? Oh my God, it's just so insane that we're at this point now. This man just dementia-ridden Biden, now just losing the documents out of the blue. Oh, I didn't even know they were there. I didn't know they were in my garage. I didn't know they were in my study. I didn't know they were over at this think tank. Trump at least had them under lock and key at Mar-a-Lago and knew exactly where they all were. And again, I talked to my friend who's I don't want to call him far leftist really so much so, but he's definitely a leftist. And I remember telling him constantly that they keep making me defend Trump. Like, I didn't like Trump during the primaries. I didn't vote for Trump during the primaries. My ideal candidate would have been Rand Paul. I just knew he would never have a shot. I voted for Ted Cruz during the primaries. And I know people will give me crap about voting for Ted Cruz, but for the most part, I feel like he's a constitutionalist. I like the guy. But my preferred candidate, someone like Rand Paul, but he didn't have a chance. But I gave Trump a chance, and, for the most part, I have a lot of disagreements with the guy. He did stuff like the bump stock ban, which is absolutely awful. He saw what he did when it came during COVID. He encouraged people to do crazy crap like lockdowns. Listen, I'm not a full Trump supporter. I think I predicted this back in 2008. I'm very proud of this. I said back in 2008, when someone asked me, because this was back when, the Apprentice was still really big and stuff, and they asked me, what would you think if Trump won, or Trump ran for office? What do you think he would be like as president? And I said, he's the kind of guy who would make big government run more effectively, but he would not shrink the size of government. And that's exactly what he did when he was in office. Just boom, 2008 me was 100% right on him. He made a big government run very, very effectively and did a really good job with it. But he didn't really reduce the size of government that much. He was not really a constitutionalist. He didn't believe in dispersing the powers back to the states. He didn't believe in, just straight up getting rid. He's not libertarian in any form whatsoever. But overall, he did a decent job as president. But they keep making me defend Trump again and again and again. And here I am now still having to defend him because as much as I don't like the fact that, of course, he had all these documents still at Mar-a-Lago, I don't like really the fact that any politician does that crap. It is nothing compared to what Biden did. And now I'm sitting there having to defend Trump all because they have gone so crazy. They've just gone so insane I'm over here now defending a president that I was kind of so on in the first place. However, if he does make it to 2024, I'll probably still vote for him. All right. Well, hey everybody, I want to thank you so much for hopping in. Today went a lot better than Tuesday, though. And for those of you who were wondering, this is Jefferson's Reserve is my whiskey that I mostly like. So I got a nice bottle of, you can see it up there, Jefferson's Reserve. I'm almost out. I'm about to have to dip into, I think, my Maker's Mark. And I love Maker's Mark, but I'd rather stick with my Jefferson Reserve. Jefferson Reserve is just, it's phenomenal. But I figure since the Republicans passed the Born Alive Act, I had to at least get some good, decent bourbon out, right? I mean, you gotta celebrate wins where you can, even if it's a symbolic win with that vote. I still think it's good to celebrate where you can, because again, it forced Democrats to have to make a terrible, terrible decision, which is gonna haunt them hopefully for a while. All right, well, I've had fun tonight. I'll probably be back on again at 10 o'clock on Tuesday. So I'm going to try to keep this Tuesday and Thursday. I know I keep changing things every now and again. I'm working on it. I have 2 kids under the age of 2, like I said before. It's kind of hard getting things straight sometimes. But I'm going to try to do Tuesdays and Thursdays, 10 to 11 if possible. So check me out on Tuesday. Tuesday, hopefully, will be on there. And I'll have clips from this, mind you, clips from this live stream going on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week as well. So I'll see you then. Either way, hope you have a great rest of your night, and hope to see you again on Tuesday.